Good evening, everyone. So today, again, we are here to do our evening chanting. So, as usual, we are all gathering at this time to do this evening chores. As a part of our regular practice, to show our respect to the Buddha, and also a reflection on what the Buddha taught, and contemplating for some times to get the deeper meaning of the Dhamma. And when we talk about the deeper meanings of the Dhamma, it is not about something very different or something very out of a touch or something that is airy-fairy. But the Dhamma is about understanding our life. So the teachings of the Buddha is nothing more than understanding our own life itself. What is our life? How we suffer? Why we are suffering? Is there a way out from this suffering? All the sufferings are there simply because there is a life. Now, conventionally, when we look at our own life, it seems like very long life or long-lived life, or going to live a long life. And oftentimes we have this perception that we will be living up to 70, 80, 90, and we have a desire to live up to 100 or more than 100, if possible, never to die. But in terms of the reality, so very unwanted truth, or do not want to talk about that truth of this life, is that it is impermanent. So there is no such things is called permanent self or permanent soul. So our life is not a permanent soul. Let's continue changing. In terms of the material world, material form, our body or physical body is changing day and night. Similarly, our perceptions and emotions, our feelings are also always changing, never been the same. Now this physical body divided into two general parts called Upadaya Rupa and Mahabhuta Rupa. Mahabhuta Rupa is made of 4 elements. And within that 4 elements, there are other components that supports one another so that the material form creates. And this material form, due to the creation of these things, it's always change. And it's always affected by weather, by the food that we eat. Not only food and the weather that it affects, it also affected by the things that we observe through the 6 senses. So the 6th sense, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Whenever one of these comes to contact with the object, with the external object, which is like a form, sound, smell, taste, tactile sensations, and the mental impressions and consciousness, at that time the consciousness arises. So our feelings and emotions are always affected by it too. And these feelings and emotions, it also affects to our physical body. Now this is what we call our life. Nothing to do with any spiritual being or a superior being. This is what we have, and this is how we are influenced, and we are influencing by our own action. So in a general term, we often heard saying our life is the 5 aggregate or components of a 5 aggregate. When it comes together, it forms the life. So Rupa Khanda, which is the form aggregate, Vedana Khanda, which is the feeling, Sanya Khanda, which is the perception, Sankhara Khanda, which is the mental formations, Vijnana Khanda, which is the consciousness. And here the consciousness doesn't mean a self. It means the ability to be mindful or aware of any objects that passes through the different senses. In another way, it is a knowing faculty. And this consciousness, again, perceives only one at a time. One makes it up. So this process of the encompassing or encompasses the entire life. Nothing exists beyond it. Things come together and it forms. Whenever these 5 aggregates are there, then we suffer. And that's why when we have a life, there comes suffering. Now we have to remember here, the 5 aggregate itself is not the trouble. It's a natural phenomena that developed with our connections and relationship with the outside or external world. But the problem is when there is attachment of this pair or this or that. And that attachment causes the trouble. Nowadays we can see this became a multi-million business, particularly to the females. They want to have a nice faces. They are attached to their wrinkled face. So they go through the doctor's knife simply to find a beautiful face again. Unfortunately, that also doesn't last long. So it is a part of the practice that we have to be very careful of, to find the real of ourselves, like a real me. And not having any attachment onto things, which again doesn't mean that you don't have to look after it. You have to look after, you have to maintain. But do not be obsessed with that. And that's how there won't be a suffering arises. Otherwise, there will be a suffering. Don't like to get old. Don't want to be sick. I don't want to see a wrinkle. I don't want to see this, or I want to see that within the body. Then suffering comes. Because our wish is against the natural truth, a natural law that began to fade away. So the suffering itself is the attachment to the objects that forms the life. Now, life is not ends here. So, our job is to find the true life, a real life, actual life. And that finding, the moment when we start walking on this path, our vision slowly changes, understanding changes, and eventually we ourselves from the grassroots, developing ourselves up to the liberation. At that very moment, then we have fully understood our life. A life that we are living in a fine balance, feeling and emotion.